And what I like to consider are the sort of 5 main types of defenses that people try to defeat the opponents. Now, I'll just run through what they are. There's a forcing defense, drawing trumps, active, passive, and trumping. Okay. Now, there are more types, but these are just generalized terms and ideas about how we're trying to get there. And what it is a forcing defense is basically you want the make them run out of trumps or run out of trump control such that your side is the one with trumps, so that if you have any suit set up now, you can take all your trumps in your own time and just give them issues in trump control. So forcing means forcing them to trump basically and lose trump control. Drawing trumps is basically, instead of declare drawing trumps, you do it. And the idea is you think that they're going to do some cross-ruffing defense or possibly try and trump losers in the shorthand or something. And if you can draw the trumps first, then you can stop that. Another one's active defense, and I'll talk a lot about active and passive later as well. But what active is basically you're trying to get your tricks really quickly. Like they're about to vanish, you get yours in first before they get theirs, sort of like a race. And you need to get your tricks in early, and you're being really aggressive about it. So you might occasionally give away tricks because you misguess what's going on, but you try and get your tricks in really early, because if you don't get them, they're going to vanish and they're going to take all the rest of the tricks after that. So sort of like it's a race. And the other one is passive, which is completely opposite, which is you're not worried about the tricks going anywhere. So you just want to make them open up all the suits and be really passive and do everything they can. And like you just wait to collect. Like you know that you don't need to play your big cards at any stage until they open up the suit. And then when they do, you collect it and make sure you get the maximum number of tricks in any suits that they have to open up. And then finally there is trumping, by setting up extra trump tricks by just ruffing if you've got a shortage or something and the suits break badly. Now, everyone knows how to do the sort of trumping one, and other people also like the active defense. They're the 2 main defenses that people just instinctively choose to try and do. They want to race in and get their tricks straight away, or they want to try and trump stuff. But they don't often think about the other 3, which is the forcing defense, the drawing trumps, or the passive. And they're all really good. Hi Karenina, thanks for coming in and watching. If you've got any questions, feel free to shoot them through. So they're the sort of 5 defenses, and when you're leading, you want to think about which sort of defense you want to take and what information you've got and how you actually choose to do that. Now, as I said, when you're leading, you're just guessing at this. You don't have all the information available to you. So you have to just, like, you're not stuck on that path at the start, but you just want to have a good idea that this is what you want to do. So I got some tips on when you should try and do the different defenses. So the forcing defense, which I mentioned earlier, is getting them to run out of trumps and you get trump control. So something that suggests doing that is that you know trumps aren't breaking well for them. So typically you've got long trumps, or possibly you know that your partner has long trumps. But trumps are not breaking for them, so that if they try and draw trumps, they're going to have a lot of difficulties after that. So I usually go for the forcing defense when I've got trump length, something like 4 or more trumps. So if that's the case, instead of leading a shortage from my side, I much prefer to lead away from my long suits. So if you have another long suit and you lead it, the opponents are more likely to have to trump it. Now, you want the long trump hand to trump, not the shorter one. So you might have chosen wrong when you lead, but you can adjust after that. But if you've got length in trumps, making them run out of trumps is usually much more effective and devastating than just trying to go for a ruff yourself. So that's the forcing defense. You want to do it when trumps aren't breaking and you've got trump length, and what you do is you lead away from your long suit. The drawing trumps option, you want to do that when their side suits aren't splitting well, or otherwise it sounds like they have shortages. Now, a common auction that you might sort of see, and this one just basically really wants a trump lead, is you might have an auction something like this. Something like that. Ignore the hand that I'm showing at the bottom. But here, if you get this auction where the north hand says that they have spades and hearts, and the other hand says they've got diamonds and hearts, the way I infer this is that the north hand has spades and hearts and probably has a shortage in diamonds, and the other hand has diamonds and hearts and probably has a shortage in spades. And if that's the case, the way they're going to do this is just try and cross-ruff the hand. And if you think the opponents are going to cross-ruff, what should you do? You should lead trumps and start drawing trumps for them so they can't do that as much. Now, before I lead trumps, I'd want to see that some of their suits aren't breaking, so I'd want either cards in their suit or something like that, not just like 3 small sitting in their suit knowing that the suit's going to break perfectly well. But this is a common sort of auction. Another similar one they might have is they might have something like a multi-2 option. Something like this, where 2 spades says, partner, I have a 5-5 shape with spades and a minor. The next hand says, okay, tell me what your minor is. And then they settle in 3 diamonds. And what this hand auction says is the 2 spade bidder says, I've got spades and diamonds and lots of distribution. And the other hand says, I really don't like spades, I've got the minors. So they have shortage in spades and the minors, and the other hand's got a distributional hand. So again, they're probably going to do some cross-ruffing, but I'd like to check that the spades aren't breaking. So if the side suits don't break well, or you know that they've got shortages, that opposing shortages, drawing trumps is often a really good idea. So trump leads are usually can be quite devastating, but what I like to do is in the bidding, if it says, like if you think about the bidding and then just try and predict how they're going to play the hand, think what's the best counter to that? How can I stop that the most effectively? And in these sorts of auctions, if you know their secondary suits aren't splitting well, they'll need to get their tricks by trumping, and if they have to do that, the best counter is to actually draw the trumps. Okay. Next one's active defense, and this is something people like to do somewhat naturally, which is lead away from goods, try and get their tricks as quickly as possible. They like getting in there and taking their cards, and they don't like sitting and waiting. But an active defense, I'll talk more about some examples of what leads are active and what they aren't later, but the times you want an active defense is when you know that a side suit is working, and basically you predict that their general plan is that they're just going to draw trumps, run side suit, dispose losers. And so if their side suit is working, then you know that they're going to dump all their losers. So you need to get your tricks really quickly. So if they've got a spot to dump losers, you have to get in there and take your tricks before they can dispose their losers. So an active defense and trying to get your tricks in quickly is what you want to do. So An example of this might be an auction something like this, where you know one hand's got a heart suit. Again, we're ignoring the actual hand, you can see, where they've bid hearts and then they found a spade fit. Now, if you're looking at something like three little hearts, or any hearts you have badly positioned for the defense, you know that the heart suit's going to set up, and then declarer will just draw trumps and then throw all their losers away on hearts. So we really want to get our minor suit tricks in really quickly. So we want to find an aggressive lead and try and get your tricks really quickly if that's the case. Whereas if you knew that the hearts weren't breaking, then you know you don't need to be aggressive, because they won't be able to dispose their losers straight away. Okay. A passive defense, on the other hand, not many people like to do it. This it's not very instinctive, but basically you sit and wait around and make the opponents open up every suit possible, and then when they open up the suit, you basically maximize on how many tricks you've got. The general premise of this is that if your side has to open up the suit, it is usually bad for you. Like, it's either no cost or bad. There's never a win case when you have to open up the suit. So if you can make an opponent open up the suit, it is usually good for you, but you can't always wait for that to happen, and that's the case. So passive defenses are used when you know that they won't have anywhere to dispose of losers. Like, there's no rush. They're going to have to be opening up as many suits as possible, and you want to make them do that, just to maximize how many tricks you can get. So when should you do a passive defense? Now, I think passive defenses are really good, and if in doubt, I tend to go the passive approach than any others. But what it is you want a sort of known side suit. You don't know that they're going to throw anything away, so they might just bid spades, 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 or something like that, and doesn't look like you're in any rush to throw anything away, because you don't know of any side suit they're going to have. Or they have an invitational auction, so maybe they have something like one no trump pass, something like this, right, where they've had invitational values. And if they've got invitational values, it means they're stretching, and you want to make sure you don't give away tricks. Other invitational auctions. Yeah. Not the best invitational auction, but you might see something like this. And if this is the case, they have very limited values, and if you lead away from honors, you might give away tricks. Now, being passive and making them open up all the suits is sort of what you want to do if they've got just invitational values. Another time you might want to be passive is they do say they've got a side suit, but you know you've got it covered. That suit's not going to run, so they'll have to come up with a backup plan, and assuming they're not just able to sort of cross-ruff the hand, you might just choose a passive lead and make them work on all the suits themselves. So you can go passive if there's no known side suit, or they're stretching, so they're invitational, or if you know that their side suit's not going to work anyway. And finally, the other one is trumping. Now, people love to do this, which is we have a shortage and we just want to lead the shortage and get some roughs. Now, I recommend this when you have a shortage but you don't have length in trumps. So if you've got 4 or more trumps, the forcing defense takes priority. But if you don't have that, I usually recommend leading your shortages. Other times you might not want to do that is if you've got natural trump tricks. So if you've got natural trump tricks, you don't want to lead your shortage because it might not help you getting a ruff.